I'm going to be giving my opening weekend review of Thorpe Park Fright Nights 2022, 21 Years of Fear. Now, before we go into this review, a couple of things. First of all, I will not be talking about my thoughts on survival games and death's doors. This is due to on the day I visited, I didn't manage to experience these two attractions due to time constraints, but I will be heading back to the event towards the end of the run to try out these mazes and the zone. But I will be talking about everything else at the event. So let's kick straight in with it, with what I thought was the weakest thing at this year's event. So at the bottom of my favourite things list at Fright Nights this year, and what I think is the weakest part of this year's event, is returning for its second year, Birthday Bash. Now, I loved Birthday Bash last year as a show and a scare zone. It was really fun. There was a brilliant cast, and you always guaranteed something in there. However, none of us were expecting Birthday Bash to come back for a second year. We were expecting Birthday Bash to be a one-year thing, and it won't come back. So when it was announced for a second year, I was quite on the fence. I didn't quite know how to feel. And from what I experienced at the event, my thoughts were correct. The show itself has improved, and the show this year is brilliant. Very much improved on last year. However, the scare zone element of it, I personally this year would have been happy if it was just the show and not the scare zone. But unfortunately, we have the zone and the show. And I think the zone element of Birthday Bash as a package was one of the weakest things this year. And personally, if I'm totally honest, I don't think Birthday Bash is going to come back next year. I think this is the final year of Birthday Bash, because it doesn't make sense for it to be there for 22 years of fear. It's not an anniversary year. So I feel like we're going to get a new show and maybe a new zone next year. But next up, I want to talk about Amity High versus Thorpe High. Graduation Sucks. Now, this is what we're presuming to be the final year of this Amity and Lycan storyline. And it is really good this year. It is personally the best version of the scare zone / show hybrid. Next up, let's talk about Creek Freaks Unchained. So Creek Freaks Unchained this year is a roaming team. It is no longer a scare zone. After 2 years of being a scare zone, it's now progressed to a roaming team. And I'm not going to lie, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, there was a lot of hype for Creek Freaks Unchained this year as a roaming team. There was a lot of hype building up for it. And I was underwhelmed. I was underwhelmed by Creek Freaks Unchained. I was expecting a lot more from it. I was expecting a lot more than just the parade float redecorated, like the vehicle they've used for Mardi Gras and Carnival and Oktoberfest. Like itself, it looks really nice, but I just feel like Creek Freaks Unchained just was something that didn't need to be at the event this year. Next up, let's talk about the Crows of Morecambe Meadow. So this is now the third year of having the Crows on Park. Obviously, those who know, the Crows first turned up in 2020 as a roaming team. Absolutely amazing. Then last year, they got their own scare zone as well as a roaming team. This year, they are just in their scare zone. And Morecambe Meadow's upgrades for this year are brilliant. The Crows of Morecambe Meadow is just amazing this year. It is even better than 2021's edition. Changes they've made is that as you go into the area, there is now a massive Morecambe Meadow sign, which is great. So it takes you out the atmosphere straight away. And this year they've utilized part of the old Saw Alive queue line. Because now in the Crows of Morecambe Meadow, you have two routes to do. You can either go down Morecambe Meadow It's the same as last year, but with a slight route adaptation and some more crows. Or you can go through towards Crone's Cottage, which is through the Sawlive queue line. Can I just say, I love how Thorpe have utilised part of the Sawlive queue line this year. I was not expecting to utilise as much as they did. And what they did in there was really cool. The fact that the crows can like bang on the fences as you go through, and they, fenced off certain bits. And there was some really intense jump scares in that Sawlive queue line part. And if the Crows of Morecambe Meadow was to return next year in the same location, which personally I think it will, because this is the second year that they've had a good run with it, I would love them to use even more of the Sawlive queue line. I would love to see them use more Sawlive as part of the Crows of Morecambe Meadow. Shout out to the cast of the Crows of Morecambe Meadow this year, because on one of my first run throughs, I got ganged up by about 6 of them, and it was insane. I think what helps with the Crows of Morecambe Meadow, especially when I went, is the zone was extremely quiet. So all the crows' attention is on you. At one point, I think I had nearly all the crows following me throughout from the end of the Sawlive bit all the way to the end. It was nuts, and there were some really good jump scares in there. Highly recommend it this year. Now we're on to the actual indoor scare attractions for this year's event. And the weakest one out of the 4, the Fearsome 4, I think it is, Fearsome 4, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Terminal. Now, I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of hype for the Terminal this year, obviously made by Darkfield. I'm actually going to experience some of Darkfield's other attractions, which is Eulogy, Flight, and Coma in a few weeks. So I'm looking forward to trying out their other experiences, their more longer experiences. But I'm not going to lie, I was very excited to try out the Terminal when it was first announced, and I was expecting a lot. And then as Oktoberfest went on and no construction was happening for the Terminal, I started to get some concerns. And then my concerns were made a reality when the containers turned up and I saw the lack of theming. Now, of course, people are going to be like, oh, it's a shipping container mode experience. What did you expect? If you take into consideration the shipping container attractions that Thorpe Park has had in the past, you've had My Bloody Valentine, Experiment 10, The Walking Dead Do or Die featured containers. The Walking Dead Sanctum's layout was made, the walls were made of containers. And Survival Games takes place in shipping containers. There is a lot of hype when there's been shipping container attractions at Thorpe during Fright Nights. The shipping container attractions have normally been quite hit or miss, but are normally successes. Experiment 10 and My Bloody Valentine. Even Containment was in a shipping container. So, what can I say about the Terminal? Is that would it be worth the £10 upcharge on its own? No. All I will say about the Terminal is it was definitely overhyped. The Terminal was definitely overhyped this year. Don't get me wrong. The problems I have with it is that they didn't even try to add like some sort of theming to help set up the story. Like, you can see the backstage area of it. Like, they haven't even tried to cover any of the backstage area. and it just looks so out of place. The only atmosphere you've got there is the actors, like the 2, 3 actors who are part of this attraction, who don't even get involved in the actual attraction, apart from the pre-show in the elevator, which has some pretty cool effects. I'll give them that. But the only atmosphere that's there, apart from the actors, is the soundtrack, which is pretty basic. So, but the actual experience of the terminal is pretty good. Like, it is got some tense moments. The fact that you're in pitch black darkness, it does add some tension. But personally, and this goes on, the attraction goes on for about 10 minutes, which, if anything, I would have loved it if this was just the only upcharge attraction. Creek Freak Massacre, the final cut, the final year of Creek Freak Massacre. There was a lot of hype for this attraction as well, and boy, did it succeed. Creek Freak Massacre, the final cut, is hands down the most intense maze I have ever done. I had 3 run-throughs on this attraction, and 2 out of 3 of those runs were basically face it alone. Now, anyone who is not yet in opening weekend had a chance to experience something like this, some of the stuff that happened in that maze on face it alone was nuts. Like, on my first run through, I got put on my knees and had to beg for my life. And in other run throughs, I ended up being in the maze all on my own, got chased around, and even got put on the balcony, which out of all the years I've gone inside Creek Freak Massacre, I have never been put on the balcony. And boy, did it feel nice to go on the balcony in its final year. Highly recommend Creek Freak Massacre this year. The cast in there is probably even stronger than the opening year cast of this maze. Right, it is next level in there this year. And if there's anything, get yourself down to Fright Notes this year for Creek Freak Massacre alone. Pay the money to go try that attraction, because this is your last chance. Just an amazing cast, no set changes, slightly adapted pre-show to go on with Project Exodus. But apart from that, Creek Freak Massacre, the final cut, the best version of this maze. The Super Spark Cinema is open again. Trailers is back. And oh my God, Trailers was next level. They have wrapped up the fear in there this year. I went into Trailers this year not expecting a lot. Yes, there's not really any changes apart from slightly new scenes. Boy, I had 4 run-throughs on this maze. 3 of them were face it alone. The cast in there are absolutely next level. The face it alone run-throughs I had in there was just amazing. New updated script in the pre-show and finale, but the face it alone run-through on this was just next level. Highlight scenes for me was 7 dolls. Just being in that doll room on your own was just absolutely terrifying. And also the finale as well. The finale, face it alone, is just next level. I ended up being in that finale for around about 5 minutes at one point. So it was just next level. Trailers this is even better than 2021's trailers. Like, this is just like next level. Definitely, like, if Trailers is quiet, and if you're ever able during this run and you are lucky enough to get a face it alone run through, cherish that moment, because face it alone on Creek Freak and Trailers were the highlight of my day. Like, just next level. Like, shout out to the cast in Creek Freak and Trailers this year. They are the best. No word. Finally, let's talk about the last minute edition, which was literally announced the day before. Legacy. Legacy is back. New setup for this year. new show, and Legacy this year is 100 times better than last year. Legacy just is nuts. They've got a screen. Just as you can see on your screen, like it just looks amazing. It's a really good show. It feels shorter than last year. It feels slightly shorter, but it's very much more rock and roll this year. And you know, I think this is what trailers should have been last year. But good to see they took 2021's feedback and made like Legacy's 2021 feedback and made it even better. So yeah, that is my review of opening weekend at Thorpe Park, Fright Nights 2022. I highly recommend this event. There's moments of it that will probably get better as the run goes on. Obviously, as we do every year, at the end of the scare season, I normally put like a top 10 of my favorite like things at Fright Nights. So like what, top 9 this year, and I normally rank them like based off how they progressed at the end of the run. And obviously, I've still got to experience death doors, and survival games as well. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, and make sure if you are new around here to hit that red subscribe button and join this fun little family that I'm trying to get back after going away for a while.